Hey, what's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Welcome to another edition of Mean Streets powered by FTN right here on Game Plus Network, live on our FTN Network YouTube page. Those hanging out, smash that like button. It would do me a solid. The show also available on iTunes and Spotify. I've had a couple people reach out recently if they could listen to this show via audio, and you can iTunes, Spotify, wherever it is that you listen to your favorite podcast. But we're thrilled to be part of the Game Plus Network of the great shows that they have over there. Of course, we have All in Football, Jake Seeley, Dango Batzelli, and Set Bet Spike coming your way on Game Plus Network as well. Lots to get to on the show. There's a ton of action in the NHL, so we have some shot props and some picks to attack a little bit later on in the show. I want to revisit the World Series as well. I got a couple guests lined up. The Fall Classic kicks off on Friday. Of course, you know by now it's the Philadelphia Phillies, the team of destiny, perhaps. There's always that team that sneaks in and it just goes on a run, and that's happening in Philadelphia. And I said it a couple times. I don't know if the Phillies are rubbing off on them, the Eagles rather, or the Flyers, but the Phillies are playing really good baseball. It seems like they fixed their defense. You know, the addition of Brendan Marsh in center field has been good for them. They're getting pitching, and they're getting pitching from their bullpen as well. But the Astros, I said it yesterday, I think it's one of the better teams I've ever seen. Like, they are just fully assembled up and down the lineup. They don't strike out. They take their walks. They got a lot of power at the plate. They're clearly experienced. This is the second time they've been to the World Series. 4 of the last 6, they've had their way against the Yankees. They've just cruised past the Yankees. 50 strikeouts and a $162 is what the Yankees batted against the Houston Astros. Bullpen looks good. Rotation's fantastic. I don't know who the Phillies starter is for the first game. I know that they can go Wheeler on normal rest, or they can go with Aaron Nola. I know that for sure the Astros are going to roll with Justin Verlander. Just want to give some World Series MVP odds with you guys. And then I have some props that I like. I think I'm going to share them tomorrow. I was looking at a couple on DraftKings, you know, over-unders for hits, for home runs for certain players, this player versus that player for RBIs and for hits and bombs. So maybe we can have some fun here a little bit later on in the week before Friday and share a few picks. But I am on the Astros. Unfortunately, I would love to see the Phillies win. Did call it on this show. It hasn't happened yet. I will be rooting for the Philadelphia Phillies to get it done. I think it's a really cool story, and I like the underdog route, and I'm just sick of the Astros. Sorry, Kyle Woods. Go Stros. Kyle's in the house. Good morning, good friend, and we will address that question in just a little bit. Any fantasy football questions, by all means, leave them. We saw another trade happen last night in the NFL. James Robinson, now a member of the New York Jets. We'll touch on that in a little bit. I got running back rankings. I got wide receiver rankings. We'll take an early look at the Week 8 betting lines as well. Lots and lots to get to here on this show. We will stream some quarterbacks and some defenses. If you guys need them, we'll roll through that as well. There are some injuries to touch on. Of course, we know Breece Hall is done for the season. That's why the Jets acquired James Robinson. Rocket ship emoji for Travis Etienne. It was already headed that way anyways, but now he doesn't really have anybody to worry about in his backfield. Maybe Jermichael Hasty could be a deep league ad. I'm going to pick him up in a deep format to see. Just never know. That next man up, it could be him. And I think that's it. We may hit the NBA. It's a late night in the NBA. We may hit that up, but we definitely have a lot of hockey to get to as well. So we're going to take a quick break right now, and we'll get into some NFL stuff. Last night was pretty good. We're happy with the night that we had in the NHL. We gave 5 shot props. We hit 4 of them. We had a successful night in the bet tracker. I saw some green screens. We had a same game parlay plus 650 for the Hurricanes. You know, I say it's simple, but these same game parlays are a lot of fun over at Bet365. Those that are north of the border, even south of the border. Obviously, I'm here in Canada, but in Ontario, Bet365, they're offering same game parlays for points and for shots, and then been pretty good. Like last night, for example, we just took the 5 best players for the Hurricanes. We took basically the top 2 lines. We had Svechnikov, Aho, Teuvo Teravainen. No, and then we had Natchez and I forget who else now, Seth Jarvis, but it kind of correlates well, right? Daily handles in the house, shots on goal all day. We'll try to rebound with some shot props, and hopefully we can continue to have some success here. That was just one day. It's been very inconsistent. Hopefully we can get on a bit of a run here. Books are adjusting. We got to adjust now for sure. Like, they were offering a lot of 3.5s and things like that. So we got to find some value where we can. But there certainly is something to be said about these same game parlays. Like, for example, the Habs and the Wild have a 7 goal total tonight. Vegas is expecting 7 goals. They know what they're doing in Vegas. They built huge buildings over there for a reason. And I think we could see like a big night from, a Zuccarello, a Boldy, Kaprizov. Then on the other side, maybe a Caulfield and Suzuki, and then all of a sudden you're at like 10-1, 12-1, just for guys hitting points. And like I said, they correlate. If they're playing together 5-5 and they're playing together on a power play, you get 1 goal. You can check a couple boxes off and things like that. We'll take a quick break. We'll get into the fantasy football stuff. Any questions, guys, leave them there, and we'll be back here in a couple. Hang tight.
At DraftKings Sportsbook, you can bet on nearly any sport imaginable. The NFL, the NBA, college football, college basketball, golf, the NHL, tennis, Major League Baseball, MMA, and more. Download the DK Sportsbook app on iOS and Android operating systems, as well as on your desktops or in mobile browsers. Get the best bonuses using promo code FTN. Remember, the only way to gamble responsibly is to win. Prize Picks is a creative new way to parlay picks based on expected fantasy point production and single stat projections. You pick 2 to 5 players and predict if they'll go over or under their projected fantasy point total or their single stat total. When parlaying the players, the larger your parlay, the better the payout. A 2-pick entry pays 3x. A 3-pick entry pays 5x. A 4-pick entry pays 10x. As a bonus offer, there's a flex play option. This provides an added level of security on your entry where you can decrease your multiplier received if you miss one of your entries but hit on all the others. At FTN, we have Prize Picks coverage for every sport in both article and standalone pick format on our Prize Picks pick tracker. Use promo code FTN for a 100% deposit match on your first deposit of up to $100.
Welcome back in. Mean Streets here live on Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney here hanging out with you. Got some fantasy football stuff we want to touch on in just a minute here or two. I don't have a lot of takeaways from last night. I was completely wrong on how that game would pan out. I mean, Justin Fields looked really good, and the Bears took it to the Pats. Just when you think the Pats are, they've kind of figured it out and they have an identity and defense is good, and, they just looked awful last night. I can't believe it. In one of my Survivor leagues, I just can't believe I picked them. I overthought it. Like, I should have been on the boys, or I should have been on the Raiders, and I picked the Pats. There were 5 people left in my Survivor, and it's continuing because it was between the 5 people we picked the Bucks and the Patriots last night. And man, I was originally on Dallas, and I changed last second, and I was just like regretting it. Even last night after the show, I was just like, man, I said with confidence that the Pats would probably win. There was like a huge spread. Like, who are the Pats? Like, why are we liking the Pats? Like, this team, and now they got a lot of work to do, clearly. I don't know if anybody saw the press conference from Bill Belichick last night. It was one of the most awkward things I've ever watched. It was just really tough to watch. And I know Bill is like that anyways. He's short-winded. He gives you one answers and that's it. But man, last night was just super weird. So, I mean, we can go over it, and there's not a lot. I mean, if you missed the game, Mac Jones started the game, and then he got pulled after a couple series, and he didn't look good to start, right? And I just thought to myself, okay, fine, maybe he's not 100% healthy. And Zappy was playing pretty good, and he had a couple wins, and then Zappy had a nice, he had a nice throw. He started off the game pretty well, like he had a nice touchdown pass to Jacoby Myers, and yeah, I was like, okay, fine. They made the right move. And then, he really struggled, and they didn't move the ball all that well. But the press conference was it was tough to watch. And the questions were legit. Like, did you plan on pulling Mac Jones? Was it an injury? Were you benching him? And then Belichick says, I'm paraphrasing, but he said that the plan was to start both guys, and everyone knew that they were going to start both guys, but yet it seemed like they benched Jones at the play. Like he didn't look good for the first couple of drives. So it just seemed to me like they were benching him. And that was the question. Well, did you bench him, or was it always a plan to just give him 2 series and move on from him? And Belichick was kind of like, he wouldn't give any secrets. He never does. But then I saw a report that Jacoby Myers was shocked that the quarterback change happened, and he felt bad for Mac Jones. So, I can't imagine that was a game plan that everybody knew. Belichick said both quarterbacks knew. Everybody knew. Both quarterbacks were running with first team offense all week. I just like lies across the board. I think he just straight up made a quarterback change. He went with Zappy. Now, who's the starter for this week? He failed to comment. He said the game just finished, so he wasn't going to announce a starter. I don't think it really matters. New England and the Jets this week, I already put the under 41. I don't think we'll see a lot of offense from the squad, but there weren't a lot of takeaways for me from the Jets side of things. Ramondre Stevenson acted like the lead, right? I mean, he was. Damian Harris had 3 carries for 8 yards. Ramondre Stevenson, 11 for 32. And Ramondre had 8 catches. There was a lot of garbage time stuff for him towards the end of the game, 8 targets and 8 grabs. And Damian Harris only had the 1 catch there. But we had a rushing prop on Ramondre. We had a receiving yard prop on Dave Montgomery. He didn't get a target in the game. It was actually Khalil Herbert who picked up that screen pass that I thought would happen for Montgomery, and it didn't. It happened for Cole Kmet. He had 1 catch for 25 yards, and he ended up finding the end zone on that. But credit to Justin Fields. He looked really good. He played confident. He had $179 his passing yards. I do believe he hit the over on that one. We did talk about the over just being a little bit too low, but he had 14 carries for 82 yards. He had a rushing touchdown in there. Montgomery looked pretty good, 15 for 62, and Khalil Herbert chipped in as well, 12 for 62. So both guys had 62 yards, 3 fewer touches there for Khalil Herbert. Nothing, again, to talk about on the Pats side of things. I mean, I don't like any of their wide receivers. I know people get excited about Jacoby Myers, and he's got upside, because he gets most of the volume, but heading into the season, I didn't like any of them. There were some rumblings about Parker and Kendrick Bourne, who we really haven't seen. It's one of the most expensive wide receiver rooms in football, and I just think they're all very mediocre. Jacoby Myers is fine. He's okay. I think the guy that's trending up in this offense, and I think he's their best wide receiver, is Tyquan Thornton. He's the rookie that got 5 targets last night with 1 catch, 19 yards. Very small sample size so far, but I believe he has the highest ceiling inside this offense. But it's not going to be a great spot this week up against Sauce Gardner, and I don't expect a lot of offense. But I really like Ramondre. Hopefully he just continues to get a big bulk of the touches and the work. Damian Harris I don't know if he was limited yesterday or what his deal was, just coming back off the hamstring injury, but he didn't get a whole lot of run there. Ramondre looks like the best back to me, and he's got bell cow potential. So I would not be moving on for Ramondre if anybody wanted to sell him after just hearing the fact that, Harris is back on the field, maybe more run this week. I'd be into buying Ramondre. And good for Fields, right? Belichick talked up Fields in the offense in Chicago for 10 to 12 minutes. Last week on a Tuesday. It was transcribed, I think, from The Athletic, and everybody had fun about it on Twitter, and everyone's like, Bill, you're out to lunch. The Bears are no good. And here they are with the same record after 7 weeks as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Green Bay Packers at 3-4. So maybe they're okay, right? I don't think that they're that great. I think it's more on New England, but Justin Fields looked pretty good yesterday. He played with confidence. I'd like him to throw the ball a little bit more with confidence, but I thought he was more decisive in his reads. He didn't panic after that first read. He looked and he got his second read in there, and he ran the rock, which is something that we know that he can certainly do. So a good game from Justin Fields. I needed 2 points from Cole Kmet. I barely got it last night. This guy's a straight bust for sure. They just don't really throw the football there in Chicago. But Bears won 33-14, and the over did hit, which I was surprised to see last night. Let's take a quick look at, actually, people are here hanging out. We'll get to some of these questions. Well, Dee's just a comment. Lamar has been killing you. I mean, yeah, he has. I think he's fine, right? He's a couple dud games. This is like his last couple games, 15, 17, 10. So a little bit bad, a little bit worse than I thought. It's even Steven, I guess, because he started off 22, 44, and 40. A matchup this week against the Bucs, who have struggled. But I think, with Rashad Bateman back, in the lineup, I believe we'll see the ceiling get reached again. Bateman had touchdowns in the first couple games. He's a deep threat guy inside the offense. He's the best wide receiver they have. And also, he got stopped at like the 1 or the 2. He almost had another touchdown there. So, if that's a touchdown, you're not complaining as much. But I get it. It's Lamar. You draft him early. Just a couple dud games from him. Listen, you could have Goff -2 points. Other quarterbacks like Tom Brady, like the floor is like 3 or 4. At least you get a little bit of rushing upside with Lamar. I wouldn't worry too much about Lamar. Kyle Woods in the house. Good morning, Chris. I have a trade question: Evans and Carter for ETN. I'd be giving up the pair, and I'm hurting at running back. I have Jones as my RB1, but after that, Carter, Pacheco, and Herbert. So you're giving up the 2. Yeah, I'd like to know who your wide receivers are, but I like the move, right? ETN, it's like I said in the last segment there, rocket ship emoji for this guy. He would already taken over the backfield in Jacksonville. He looks good running between the tackles, getting a few catches and targets out of the backfield as well. A couple goal line looks. I will say that, Trevor Lawrence may tick you off a little bit. We've seen 3 rushing touchdowns from him at the goal line over the past couple weeks. We had an ETN rushing touchdown last week, and he fumbled the rock near the goal line as well. But I like this move. I do believe Carter will be the lead over the next couple weeks. The Jets have the Pats this week and then Buffalo the week after. Really tough matchups. And then they go into their bye. And then maybe they'll see James Robinson be a little bit more incorporated in the offense. I think, things change so quickly in the NFL, right? It's ETN, looks good, fantastic. Well, first it's Breece Hall. He looks fantastic. He just looks like a top 12 running back. Backfield's his. Looking really good. The engine of the Jets offense. Boom. He's the man. And then on the other side, it's like Robinson backseat, Travis Etienne. He's the man. Both of these guys. Then the injury happens to Breece Hall. And it's like, okay, Michael Carter. This is why we talked many times on this show when we've seen Carter as one of the most dropped running backs, not to drop running back depth, that it's so important to keep it as opposed to just picking up a random wide receiver that you're going to play for a week. What good is a lot of these wide receivers? I got a list of 20 of them. And I'll tell you what, I'd much rather have the running back depth over 15 of them that are not going to be in your starting lineup week in and week out. Things change so quickly. Next man up, Michael Carter. Looks like Michael Carter is going to be a bell cow back. Things that we saw from him last year. And James Robinson's value is no good. And then Robinson gets traded. All of a sudden, he has life again, and Carter takes a bit of a backseat. But as I mentioned, I do believe Carter will be the lead for the first couple of weeks, and that Robinson will overtake maybe first and second down opportunities. Maybe it's just a split between both of them. Carter will act as the third down back, the pass catching back, 2-minute drill back, I believe. And then inside the 5 and the 10 in the red zone area, I think that Robinson has true value there. How much will the Jets live inside the red zone? Maybe not often. This is a team that has relied on their defense, but they're keeping their true identity to run the rock, and they're running the rock very well. Like, yes, Breece Hall credit, but the offensive line has played really good. They're getting up the field and kind of reminding me of the Eagles, right? They got guys that get up the field and they block really well. Jason Kelsey is a really good center, and the Jets got some nice players on both sides of the football. I've loved their draft. They've picked up skilled position players. They've had top picks over the past few years. So I think the Jets, I'm not super surprised with the record. I'm more surprised that the Giants are winning these games with no weapons, and they're trailing in the fourth quarter of all the games, but they're finding a way to win football games, and their defense isn't as good. Like, they can't stop anybody, certainly on the run. They have issues stopping the run, but credit to both of these teams. They got 11 wins here through 7 weeks. This is combined wins. This is crazy, but I like the trade for you, Kyle. Long-winded there, I know. But I do like the trade. Evans and Carter for Travis Etienne. You said you're short there on running backs, and you got some other wide receivers there. You said you have Evans, Cooks, London, Pickens, Waddle. So I don't love your wide receivers, but I think it's more and Obi Wandell. Nice. I like that. So yeah, you got Wandell, which is nice there. Pickens, Waddle, London. You're just not getting any targets. Said this yesterday on the show. Very shocking to see the Bengals be up as much as they were in that game, rolling on offense, and still have Marcus Mariota throw the ball 13 times. It's like they don't even want to throw. You are giving up a solid wide receiver, but I think it's more important to have these running backs. You roll out Cooks, you roll out Pickens and Waddle every week. I would play those two over London. I would even play Wandell over London at this point as well. Is Dulcich a good pickup, a tight end on bye this week, or anyone else you would recommend? So we did this on Set Bet Spike, which is live on our FTN Network YouTube page, and you can check it over at Game Plus as well, happening in a couple hours. I believe that is 5 Eastern over on Game Plus Network. But we went through some tight ends. I think he's okay for a tight end stream. I actually would prefer. So Schultz is most likely owned everywhere. Dulcich, whether it was, we've seen a little bit of both quarterbacks, and he was heavily involved there last week with Ripon under center. So 12 targets here through 2 games. He's got 95 yards. He has a touchdown. He's got a matchup against Jacksonville. I actually think the tight end that I would stream this week on the short week is Cade Otton. Cade Otton for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I really like what I've seen from him over the past couple weeks. I don't think we'll see Cameron Brate play on the short week. I think he's going to miss some time due to a concussion. And the last couple weeks, 7 targets, 3 and 5. He's had 64 yards, 23 and 43. He's got 12 catches over his last 3 weeks. Got 15 over his last 4. And Brady likes to throw. He likes to throw the tight end position, and the Bucs push the pace a little bit. So he Dulcich is there for me as a streaming option. I think Otton is a slightly better one. For those that are not only missing, certain tight ends on bye, like Travis Kelce, but also maybe David Njoku. Mark Andrews is, he didn't practice yesterday, a short week today. Is he going to play this week? You may be without Mark Andrews. I wouldn't go automatically to likely. I think in a deep league ad, I wanted to throw out Harrison Bryant at you guys. Just with no Njoku there, he's kind of the next man up at the tight end position. He could fall into a handful of targets. It's a little bit risky, but he's somebody that's on my radar. Evan Ingram has got 23 targets over the last 3 games. He's got 15 catches over the last 3 games as well. He's involved in this offense. I could rank these guys for you. I really do like Otton. And then I would probably go Ingram. And then I would probably go Dulcich there. I've heard his name pronounced different ways. I'm probably butchering it. But that's the way that I would go with those 3 guys as streaming tight ends. Then we get into deeper formats. Irv Smith is just okay. It is a really good matchup. I will say that Arizona's given up the second most fantasy points to tight ends. Maybe I got to put him in. He's probably owned, but I'd probably chuck him in just ahead of Dulcich. So I'd go like Otton, Ingram, Irv, Dulcich in there. Bryant, deeper leagues. Robert Tonyan could potentially be hanging around waiver wires. Buffalo, they're heavy underdogs. You got to imagine. I mean, this team doesn't want to run the ball. Green Bay. I can see it now. They're just going to run the ball. They'll be down 14 points. They're just going to run the ball. I can't figure out the Packers at all. But hopefully it helped you out there, George. I'd go for the Buccaneers tight end first, and then Ingram, Irv, and then I would go with Greg. Dawson Knox is kind of still hanging around waiver wires. He is interesting. He's got a little bit of upside there. Hunter Henry, I just don't feel like he's got a high ceiling. Gesicki's had some big weeks, and he's had some games where he's been very quiet and not involved at all. Brevin Jordan had 4 targets last week. Remember Brevin Jordan? RIP, 4 targets. Guess what? He didn't catch any of them. But that's the way I would go at the tight end position. What else do we have? Kyle, keep chucking. Actually, you know what? Let's take a quick break. We went kind of long here in this segment. Let's take a quick break. We'll get to these other questions that we have. Bear with me, guys. John Doe, I see the question. We'll get to it in just a second, and I want to present the waiver wire rankings with you guys as well. So keep her locked. We'll be back in a couple.
I can't say enough about what we've got going on over at FTNBets.com.
At FTN Bets, your bankroll can be profitable. With the FTN Bet Tracker, you can tell your favorite experts across all sports, including the NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball.
Welcome back to Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. I'm your host, Chris Meaney.
And with our premium content, you can take your bets to the next level. Only $49.99 a month. Use the tools the pros use at FTN. Our betting models run over 100,000 simulations of every game, with sides and totals in the NFL, the NBA, and more. Use the home run predictor to see who'll hit a bomb deep. Our NFL player projections will make you a DFS king. And the FTN Prop Shop always finds the best odds for your player props. All tools, projections, and models are powered by FTN Data.
Welcome back in. Kyle, I missed that comment. He says he was a Coca-Cola Astros buddy as a kid. He ran the bases at the Astrodome, dating himself. Man, that's super cool. All right, that's a highlight moment for you, running the bases as a kid. I touched the field at the Rogers Center. It was pretty cool. I touched the field at the Big O. I was pretty excited to get to run the bases when I was on the turf. It was nice. You know, the Astros had some really good teams back then, obviously, like Bagwell and Biggio. How about Roy Oswalt? Like, they had some really nice squads. And then they had like 4 or 5 100+ lost seasons, I think. That's why they got all the talent that they have. They've drafted really well over the past handful of years. The Jeremy Pena kid he's legit, man. Fun to watch if you're an Astros fan for sure. Tyler, let's roll through some of these questions. It's easier for you to chuck them up than for me to kind of, scan and throw them up as well. So just let's start at the top and make sure we got everything from everybody. I think John Doe was that first one, 10-team family league one. We'll get that one up here. Yeah, here we go. 10-team family league through ESPN. Don't love the ESPN platform. With Njoku out. Okay, so Dolchich, Rashad White, trying to gauge different opinions with these two. So I guess you don't need a tight end. I don't know. Are you looking, because you're looking to replace Njoku? Rashad White's not going to help you there. I don't know. Do you have another tight end that you're going to roll out? I mean, if you need a tight end, then you go the tight end route. In the last block, kind of just rank them Auden, Ingram, and then I would go with Irv, and then I would go with Dolchich in there. That's how I would rank them. But I really like Rashad White. Maybe not in a 10-team league, but if anything happened to Fournette, this guy's an RB1, a low-end RB1, right? There's no question he's catching passes of the backfield, which is, I mean, that's the Bucs offense is chucking, and he's already shown that he can hammer it in from the goal line. We've seen that at least once so far this season. So we'll move on from that one. I do think he's a good stash, but you probably don't need him in 10-team. Okay, so Hill and Dave Montgomery for JT and Amari Cooper. I think we touched on this one on SetBet. I like the JT and Amari Cooper side. Yeah, I mean, I really like Tyreek Hill, obviously. I mean, I think he was leading the league in receiving yards per game heading in. Amari Cooper's been fine, right? He's been pretty good. You're going to get Watson back for the playoffs, potentially. Maybe. Who knows with that guy? But even if he doesn't come back, Jacoby's kind of looked his way. And I like JT over Dave Montgomery. So it's kind of a bit of a wash, right? You're getting an upgrade over Montgomery, and Hill is better than Amari, but I like the better running back there. So I take the right side, JT and Amari Cooper. I think that's the side that wins, but it's pretty close, dude. Like Tyreek Hill is, I mean, he can win you a week, single-handedly win you a week, but JT can as well. We'll touch on the Colts situation a little bit when we get to wide receivers, but they have made a coaching change or a quarterback change. Matt Ryan has been benched, and he leads the league in sacks, fumbles, and interceptions. So I think it was the right call, but Ellinger is going to be tossed into on a team that the offensive line does not look good, but at least he's more mobile. Right? I think he had 1,000 yards in his last 2 years rushing. But we haven't seen him yet in the NFL. Okay. What else do we got here? Thinking about dropping RB for a better wide receiver. RB is McCaffrey, Mostert, James Conner. Yeah. So, I mean, you're keeping Mostert, you're keeping McCaffrey. Mostert's been rolling as like a bell cow back. Those other backs, I kind of miss the rest of them. Henderson. Yeah. Thanks. So Henderson, Connor, and Williams, Swift back soon. Okay. I don't know if I feel good about dropping any of those, but your wide receivers, Lamb, Olave, and AJ is a nice 3. Pickens ahead of Alec Pierce. I mean, drop Reynolds. I don't know. Like, what? I don't know if Josh Reynolds is going to do much. Like, I know that DJ Chark's on IR. Amon-Ra, I guess, left with an injury, concussion. Maybe Reynolds is a hold for now just to see. But I still don't think he's got a high ceiling. We're going to see Jameson Williams soon. Hawkinson. You definitely need some help at wide receiver. With Alec Pierce is a guy that I really like, and I have been touting him quite a bit. But now with the quarterback change, who knows? Like, Paris Campbell's gotten a lot of targets lately, but who knows if he's going to be the guy? Maybe that was just a Matt Ryan thing. Maybe Ellinger comes in and he has a nice rapport with Alec Pierce. Maybe Pittman struggles. Pittman's been taken away from top corners at times. You definitely need some help here at wide receiver. I understand maybe dropping one of those running backs, but I just like that depth at the running back position. I think I don't know what else is on your waiver wire there, John, but I think you could do better than Reynolds. Well, we got some waiver wire rankings. Maybe I can help you out here in a second. What else do we have? If no trade, Algier or one of the Carolina backs would bid more for one of Herbert or Foreman, leave Foreman a bit. I'd be dropping Pacheco for one of those guys, PPR keeper league, by the way. Yeah, Algier's short. He's got a short shelf life here. I mean, he is getting the ball. He's getting the carries. They get 15, 16 carries for 50 or 60 yards. He had a touchdown, but Cordilla is going to come back soon. And, maybe he probably loses his spot. I thought he could overtake the backfield with a couple nice showings. We'll see what he can do this week. But, these two teams facing each other. I lean Foreman. I've always been the Foreman is the better stash, the better handcuff. But at the same time, Kyle, Hubbard has been playing over Deontay Foreman. He played over him as the backup for CMC, and he was playing over him. He was getting about 60% of the snaps before he left with the injury. But it is, I think, going to be a bit of a split. We saw Foreman bust a couple nice long runs, and then Chuba cap it off with a touchdown. But Foreman, I think, is the guy that's going to catch some passes out of the backfield. So I think there's more value in him. I think he's the better running back. So I think there's a higher ceiling with him. It may take some time for him to overtake, and maybe he doesn't. Maybe it's 60-40. I think it could get to 70-30 or 65-25, something like that. But this is a Carolina team that I do, even though they're one game back of the division lead and they just beat the Bucs, this is a team that I expect to be playing from behind quite often the rest of the season, and I think that benefits Foreman. And I'm not really sure of the injury status on Chuba Hubbard, but both of these guys should be rostered. I do have Foreman ranked ahead. And then Nick has that question, Chuba or Deontay, Pierce or Campbell. So Deontay and then Campbell, right? I mean, just because of what we've seen over the past couple of weeks with Paris Campbell, double-digit targets, like he's just been a factor. But again, right? It's a new quarterback. It's a guy that we haven't seen in the NFL. It's an offensive line that, as I mentioned, Matt Ryan, he hasn't looked good, but he's been sacked more than anybody. He's got more interceptions and more fumbles than any quarterback. So he could struggle, but Ellinger is more mobile, so maybe he can escape the pocket a little bit more. But what I've seen from Paris, I think I have to go that way. What else do we got here? Jose Cruz, nice. Jim Nantz will be calling his final. What is this? Jim Nantz will be calling his last Final Four this season. Ian Eagle will be replacing him. Okay. A little bit of college basketball news. Daily Handle's always all over it. Ian Eagle is really good. He is great. I really like the voice, but it'll be interesting with Nantz, right? Final go. He's pretty good as well. We're at the 30-minute mark of the show. I think we hit all the questions and things like that. We will break one more time, and I promise I will show you the rankings that I have. And maybe this can help you guys out with your waiver wires and some of the questions that you're unsure about certain guys. So we'll rapid fire through the running backs and the wide receivers on the other side of the break. Stay tuned. Welcome back in, Tyler. Let's show the running back rankings here. This is just the best players that I could see that were available on the waiver wire. Maybe they're not in your leagues, but the first few may not be. See some people asking questions if they pick them up, so maybe. All of these running backs are owned in fewer than 60% of Yahoo leagues. Gus Edwards was, again, he's somebody that we've talked about a couple times. Is like a great stash on IR. The minute that J.K. Dobbins, was placed on IR, he's going to miss the next 4 to 6 weeks. I think it may have surprised some people. It did surprise me as much run as he had right away, and Kenyon Drake was coming off the big week. But Gus Edwards knows this offense. His first couple seasons in the NFL, he had over 700 rushing yards. He's not going to be a big player catching the rock out of the backfield, but they trust him. Again, he knows the playbook, and he's an underrated running back, man. He really is. And we saw him found the end zone last week, and he could have a diamond in the rough there as a guy that you picked up for free, you drafted super late, you stashed an IR. He is going to be a low end RB2 for me this week, and what is a tough spot against the Bucs, but we just saw Foreman and Chuba kind of tear Tampa Bay up just a little bit. And, Tampa's going through some things. So Gus Edwards, definitely over Kenyon Drake. Everyone will drop Kenyon Drake. We'll look at the most added in the drop players, and Kenyon Drake will be on that list. But again, another guy next man up that maybe you just want to be careful of dropping certain dudes. But it is Gus Edwards' backfield. And you guys see that I have Foreman ranked ahead of Chuba. But as I said in the last block, Chuba had played ahead of Foreman, not just over the weekend, but as the backup as well. And I do believe he will act as the lead, but I think skill set will overtake, and I believe that belongs to Foreman. But both guys should be rostered, and you can start both guys as well, right? In a matchup this week against Atlanta, I will have Foreman slightly ranked higher, just a touch, but they'll be neck and neck. Algier, right? Short shelf life, still kind of hanging around waiver wires. People are dropping him. I mean, he's a guy that's getting 15 touches. He's getting some goal line work. He found the end zone last week. The matchup is not awful this week. He's a guy that you can start as a flex play. I have Latavius here on this list. I think Mike Boone may miss some time with an injury. And, it's back and forth between him and Melvin Gordon. Gordon is owned. Who knows, right? Gordon could suffer an injury. He could get traded tomorrow. He could get traded today. I wouldn't be shocked. And then they roll with Latavius. So make sure he is rostered. We said yesterday that, you can only take these reports with a grain of salt. He's the quote starter of the squad. And yeah, he started, but that was it, right? It's still a committee in Kansas City. People will probably drop Isaiah Pacheco after, they picked him up and they rolled him out, and they're pissed off that he didn't do anything. And now KC's on a bye, but I would still have him on the roster. He does look like he has the highest ceiling running between the tackles between him, CEH, and McKinnon, but McKinnon's not going anywhere. He's a veteran back that has had some moments, certainly this season, and CEH is getting red zone usage, and he's scoring touchdowns this year. So it is a full-on committee. I don't feel great about starting any of them, but CEH will always be ranked highest for me because I do believe he has the highest ceiling of the bunch. But Pacheco will get dropped. I think you can pick him up and kind of stash him. Khalil Herbert showed yesterday that he's going to be involved in this offense, and we've already seen what he can do when Dave Montgomery misses some time. And the rest of the guys are like handcuff guys, like Alexander Madison, probably dropped because of the bye, but Cook has had numerous injuries over the course of his career. We have seen firsthand what Madison could do. Rachaad White, I still believe, is the best stash. I understand maybe this may not pan out. You may just be stashing him all year. It's hard to do in an 8-team and a 10-team. It's easier to do in a 12-team, and it's much easier to do if you are sitting pretty after 7 weeks. If you are a 1 or a 2-win team, then what's the point of having Rachaad White on your bench, right? But if you're sitting pretty good, you don't really love the makeup of your running backs, you want that next man up, you have Leonard Fournette. I think he's a pretty good stash. Karen Williams is on this list. There's a couple other guys that I could have put on here as just like whatever guys, like, I don't know. Kenneth Gainwell I could have put on this list. But, if anything happens to Miles Sanders, I think it'd be Gainwell and Boston Scott. But I wanted to put Kerwin Williams on this list because clearly we have the issue with Cam Akers. Is this guy going to get traded? I don't fully believe in Darrell Henderson or Malcolm Brown. There are certainly some issues with the offensive line in LA, and Kerwin Williams is on IR. But I think he's a pretty good stash. There's a report out of The Athletic from Jordan Rodriguez who says he expects fifth-round rookie running back Kieran Williams, who is dealing with an ankle injury, to, quote, have a big role once he returns. Now, I don't know if he's going to have a big role, but certainly somebody to monitor, right? And somebody I think people are probably not going to be sending fab on him. They're not going to be picking him up. You can pick him up. You can stash him. He may not get activated this week. He may. And then he'll trend upwards. But Yeah, I mean, who knows, right? I don't think he's built to be like a 15 carry running back, but he can catch some balls out of the backfield, right? That could happen. The offensive line is not good. I mean, it's everybody that was on the offensive line in the Super Bowl is not right now. I think they have one guy that's healthy on that squad on the offensive line. So it's certainly been an issue with the Rams, but ultimately he's a guy to stash. One more guy that I would put out there is JaMychal Hasty, because yes, it's Travis Etienne's backfield. I really wanted to put him on the list, but I thought Williams had a higher ceiling. It's that's the next man up, JaMychal Hasty. He had a nice long run, I think, a couple weeks ago. If Etienne all of a sudden went down, then JaMychal Hasty's a guy that's going to get 15 plus touches. Not a great back. It's got a little bit of speed. He can catch. We've seen it before in San Fran. It's just the next man up. So if you're an Etienne owner or you're in a deep league, you're looking to stash somebody, that's the way I would go. And how about the wide receivers? Let's roll those guys out as well before we break and get into some other stuff. So again, the first few guys most likely own, but I took a look at Yahoo leagues and I just wanted to put the best players available that were under 60%. George Pickens is a stud. I would start this guy every week. He's basically a wide receiver 3 for me, or a flex play. I mean, he's got terrific hands. We saw it in the end zone. Nice little catch. And Pickett likes to throw to Pickens, and I am all about that. Wan'Dale Robinson, we talked about last week as well. Yes, Kyle, over Snoop. I know Snoop is a guy, but I do believe that JaMychal Hasty would be the guy to pick up for me. He's just a veteran back. And what I've seen is that he's been more active and he's been, getting some touches here and there over Snoop. But Snoop, deep, I suppose, when it comes to him, and maybe Dynasty and Keeper over JaMychal. But Wan'Dale, right, last week showed up with some catches. I don't think he has a high ceiling, more value in a PPR league. He's a guy that's maybe like 6 for 40, 6 for 60, things like that. I don't know if he'll be a heavy target inside the red zone when they get there. It's a Saquon show or Daniel Jones tucks and runs. Darnell Mooney, Garrett Wilson. There's a lot going on with the Jets. I have Elijah Moore here on this list. But again, if you're in a bad spot and you need wins, Elijah Moore is no good to you. But if you're in a really good spot, you're sitting pretty after the first few weeks of the season in fantasy, Elijah Moore could get traded here over the next couple of days. He could land in a better environment. I do believe in the talent and the skill set. I think he should just go to work. They sent him home. I don't know what he's complaining about. He's been in the league for a minute. The team is winning football games. Don't be so selfish, Elijah. I know you want targets. I get it. I understand all of it. You'll get paid. You'll get targets. Just go to work. Things will work out for you. It's just a young rookie core. It's a young sophomore quarterback. It's a young sophomore head coach. Anyways, that's it for the rant. But Elijah, depending on your situation, same thing that goes for Jameson Williams, depending on your situation. If you need a wide receiver right now, Donovan Peoples-Jones is not going to really help you. He's on bye this week, but I've noticed, he's getting targets. He's had some pretty productive weeks. Watson could come back come fantasy football playoff time. Donovan Peoples-Jones could be an interesting stash. I still believe in MVS as well. He's probably going to get dropped. Mecole Hardman had 3 touchdowns last week. 2 were end arounds. I think MVS does have a higher ceiling. KC on a bye, he'll probably get dropped. You can scoop him up. Rondell's on that list as well. It's interesting. Hopkins played a lot in the slot. Rondell didn't do a whole lot there. If we transition over, I got Paris Campbell there as 10, but again, the quarterback change, I'm a little uncertain how it's going to look with Indy. Ellinger is definitely a more mobile quarterback, but the offensive line has not been good. But who knows who his guy is going to be? I think Pittman is quarterback proof. He's shown that now with Ryan and Wentz. We'll see with Ellinger. But who knows who the number 2 is going to be? But certainly have to have Campbell over Alec Pierce. Let's switch over to a little bit deeper here. There we go. Marquise Goodwin. DK has a chance to play this week. I don't think he's going to play. He's not going for surgery, so maybe he's out for 4 weeks or so. But Marquise Goodwin is if you're in a pinch and you need somebody this week, as opposed to just stashing other guys that was on that list before, and that's on this list here, and like a Dotson and Treylon Burks and Tyquan Thornton. Those are guys that I think are good stashes. We could see trend up here in the second half of the season. Robbie Anderson's on this list. I don't like him as much as other people, but he's a guy that could run some go routes and is maybe a deep threat guy inside this offense. Nico Collins, I still believe in, right? I still think, he was playing more snaps, running more routes than Brandon Cooks. Cooks could get traded at any moment. If I'm the Texans, I am definitely trading this guy, and he's been traded multiple times. So he's always traded in the NFL. But Collins, we'll keep an eye on him with the groin injury. If he misses time and Cooks is traded, like Philip Dorsett, obviously. But it really is a Dameon Pierce show, and it just means more targets out of the backfield. Pierce has been plus money for 3 grabs in each of the past couple weeks, and he's been hitting that. pretty consistently, as getting all the reps, even third down opportunities there as well. Alec Pierce is way down the list. I do believe in the talent, but like I said about the quarterback play, Darius Slayton, if you're in a pinch, I'm in a pinch in certain spots. I've had to start him in one of my dynasty leagues. Isaiah McKenzie, he's a couple dud weeks there, here and there, but the Bills got a really, really nice schedule the rest of the way. So they're just going to steamroll some opponents. So, they may scale back from like Diggs and Gabe Davis and maybe a little bit more run there for Isaiah. And as I mentioned, Robbie is just like the deep threat, run some go routes there, replace Hollywood Brown, which we really did love. But Nico was on his way, guys. I know I had that as a bet in the tracker. He really was on his way. I think in the first quarter, he had like 3 grabs for 30 yards, and then he missed some time. I still believe in the talent overall, but he'll get dropped across the board. Just like a deep league guy there for you. Another break. We're going to switch gears. We got some NHL picks and some props. And the artist, you're in at the right time, dude. We got some NHL stuff for you, and we'll wrap up with a little sneak peek of the World Series MVP odds as well. So a couple more segments here on Game Plus Network. Be back in a couple. Welcome back in. So a busy night in the NHL. Dangle Bets is live on our FTN Network YouTube page. If you're watching Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network, it's going to come your way in just a little bit. Eric and I broke down all of the games, called some shot props and some goals. And yesterday was pretty good, as I mentioned here on the show. We're looking to continue. We went 4 for 5 on the shot props. We had a same game parlay at 650. That was one in our bet tracker. We had a couple units on the Carolina Hurricanes yesterday. The Vancouver Canucks remain winless, and we'll continue to pick on them moving forward as long as their defense continues to be depleted. They're just a team that's really struggling with the 5-5 play, to say the least. So let's look to bounce back. I just want to say, if you want part of the betting package, Meaney, promo code ftnbets.com/pricing, all the picks across all the sports, Discord, channel, projections, all that stuff. Let's get into a bit of a groove. Let's see if we can go back-to-back solid nights. I'm going to start here with, there's a lot of shot props that I like, to be honest, but this one is probably my favorite, and it's Alex Tuch of the Buffalo Sabres, 2.5 shots at -114 over at Bet Rivers. He's cleared 2.5 in 4 of his 5 games this season. He leads the Sabres in shot attempts at 5-5 with 20, and shot attempts overall at all strengths at 28. He's also first on the Sabres in scoring chances. He's got 6 goals over a 4-game goal streak here, a matchup against the Seattle Kraken, who have issues keeping the puck out of their net since they've entered the league. Since he was acquired from the Vegas Golden Knights, like in Vegas, he was on the 3rd line. He was on the 2nd power play. He originally came over and he just started hitting the score sheet right away. I mean, he's played a career high 18 minutes per game with the Sabres, 55 games. He's got 18 goals and 45 points. He's off to a heck of a start here This season, he's back up on that top line. He's playing first power play. He's averaged 2.8 shots per game in those 55 games here with the Buffalo Sabres. He's just a really good player, and he was just buried behind a really good Vegas Golden Knights squad. So I like that he's getting a lot of opportunity here with the Buffalo Sabres. He's plus 148 for an assist, and he's minus 145 for a point. I don't know if he keeps the goal streak going, but I do believe he hits the score sheet and taking the over on the 2.5 shots. A couple other shot props that I like here for this evening. Let's start with Matt Zuccarello of the Minnesota Wild. He's got a matchup here against the Canadiens. Zuccarello, back in the day, we used to take the over on the 1.5. It's now 2.5 at minus 114. He's had a heck of a start as well. He's got 4 goals and 10 points and 22 shots. He's had at least 3 shots in every game this season. He's got 15 in his last 3. He's got a point in every game as well and 3 multi-point games on the year. He's plus 160 for 2 points tonight. I think he's definitely in play, and he's up to... he's up to 15 points here on the season. Is that correct? I don't think that's correct. Let me double check here. Let me double check here. Quick time, guys. 10 points. That was what I was looking for. 10 points and 15 shots on goal in his last 3 games. Matthew Tkachuk is on this list. He's hitting every single game. So let's continue to ride this out. A heck of a start for him as well as a member of the Florida Panthers. He's got 29 shots in 6 games, 4+ in every game. And, he's just been hitting 5+ in 3 games and 8 points on the season. Jack Hughes hit for us last night, minus 101. I think we'll see some goals here between the Detroit Red Wings and the New Jersey Devils, 4+ shots in 5 straight games for Hughes. He only has 3 points, and I see he's getting dropped in Yahoo leagues. Buy low on Jack Hughes. Don't drop him. He's a volume shooter. I think he's got a lot of upside there. And the Shane Gostisbehere, this was actually plus 146 at one point. It is dropped down. I would take anything. It may get to even money before a puck drop, but 4+ shots for Shane Gostisbehere in 4 of his 5, 10 in his last 2, and he's playing heavy minutes for the Arizona Coyotes. They don't have a whole lot there, and as long as Chikrin's out of the lineup, we'll see Mr. Shane Gostisbehere rack up some shots and some ice time. There's other guys that I like, the usual suspects that have been good to us: Pasternak, Trocheck in every game, Boone Jenner in every game. Goal scorers, we called them all over at Dangle Betselli, so go check that out. We got some goal scorers. We got a whole lot more over at Dangle Betselli and in our FTM bet tracker. It's a busy night in the NHL. We got some plus money assist props and point props, and we do have quite a few shot props as well. Good luck tonight on the ice. We're going to break, and we will take a look at the World Series odds for the Phillies and the Astros getting underway on Friday. One more segment. Hang tight. Welcome back in. Let's show the series board. I do believe we had that a little bit mixed up yesterday, so just want to give you guys the actual odds here. So the Astros are heavy favorites at -185. The Phillies at +160. It's hard for me to tell you guys to bet the Astros. We did have them at, I think, +450 before the playoffs happened, so decent odds there. I wouldn't hate anybody for taking the underdog here in the Phillies. They got something special certainly going on. As I mentioned, the defense has turned it around. The bullpen's been great. Bryce Harper's been absolutely fantastic here in the playoffs. I think like a 1.13 OPS, and he's hitting like a 4 something. He's been really, really good. I think the Astros win this World Series, and I got them in 6 games at +340 over at DraftKings to win 4 games to 2. I just like the lineup up and down. Let's take a look here at the World Series odds before we get out of here, or just the MVP odds. Tyler, if you do have them, we can check them up. If you are back in the Phillies, right, I think it makes some sense to go for Harper here at +650, or for Zach Wheeler at like a 17-1, or Aaron Nola at 13-1. Like, those guys would have to have really strong showings. But the thing with taking those pitchers is the Astros just don't strike out. Like, I don't see like huge performances from Nola and Wheeler where they rack up like 15, 20 strikeouts in like 2 or 3 outings. So I am in on a Verlander at 9-1. I like Bregman at 12-1. And I think that there's something to be said about Jeremy Pena at 17-1 as well. I don't know if you go from a ALCS MVP to World Series MVP, but Bregman is a guy that definitely stands out to me at 12-1. He just gets it done on the big stage. All right, we'll continue to break down the World Series like tomorrow and Thursday before it gets underway on Friday. Appreciate you guys hanging out. Good luck on the ice, on the hard court, and with all your waiver wire claims. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a good one. Cheers.